Today, I'm going to talk with Chloe Thomas, and we're going to talk about chakras, how chakras work with homeopathy, how chakras might help us find homeopathic remedies, and how chakras help us understand where there might be a block. But there's something really exciting about this episode because we actually are going to talk about colour remedies as well. Hello and welcome. Thank you very much for joining us today. And I'm really pleased to be able to welcome Chloe Thomas. Chloe, it's lovely to see you. How are you doing?
Hi, Mary. Really good, thanks. Thanks so much for having me on today.
Chloe, it's a real privilege for me to be able to talk to other homeopaths. Can you just give me a little bit of background about yourself, where you live, and why you chose to become a homeopath?
Yeah, sure. So I live in a really, really old house. I live in a cottage in the Suffolk countryside in the UK. It's really lovely. Um, there's quite a long story to why I became a homeopath, but I'll condense it and make it quite short. I actually ended up being a single mum quite early on when my children were really young, and I found huge, huge relief with my homeopath who was treating me at the time. And it just evolved into this. My sister said to me one day, Chloe, you're really, really good at this and you love it so much. Why don't you do this as your career now? And you can, do it forever and help your children and treat everyone the way you do at home anyway, with friends and family. You can do it as a job. I thought, yeah, that is what I will do.
That would suit you. That's a lovely story. And it is amazing, isn't it, how so many homeopaths come into this by through personal experience.
Mm.
But today we're going to be talking about how homeopathy works with the chakras.
Yeah.
And I'm really interested in this because it's not something that I have studied or work alongside. So tell me a little bit about the introduction. Why are we interested in the different chakra points when we are using homeopathy?
Mm. It's really interesting, Mary. When you start looking at it, it can go down a bit of a rabbit hole. So I'll try and keep it at,
Yeah.
a sort of easy to understand level. Um, so we have certain chakra points up our body. Everybody has them, and they can be open or closed depending on what you've been through and what your emotions are at the moment. And it can actually be a really amazing way to put your case into perspective. If you can't find a remedy, or you're thinking, oh, this remedy isn't working as much as I would like it to, or if there's a block and you just can't seem to get over it, then I would really suggest going in and looking at your chakras. And perhaps if something needs clearing, that's another way that you can do it. Um, you can group remedies around chakras. So some people, for example, if you're holding a really big grief and you haven't been able to let it go and you always feel this tightness in your chest, then that will be around your heart chakra. And there are groups of remedies that are within the heart chakra that you can use. So it's the same with all of them up and down the body.
Yes, yeah. So let's just go through them briefly, can we? Just so that we're understanding. And of course, then we can relate it quite easily to the symptoms that we might be experiencing if that chakra is blocked.
Yeah, exactly. So the first one is the root chakra, and that's just below your bottom and it sits in between your legs. And this is the chakra that's all around being grounded. If you've had a difficult childhood between the age of 0 and 7, this is when the root chakra will be most affected. So you'll be able to see problems around feeling grounded in yourself. Some people will feel quite sort of disassociated and floaty and dreamy as they go on through their life, and this can be because they really need grounding in their root chakra. Um, Again, the remedies around the root chakra can be calc carb is a really big one for the root chakra because it needs stability. You need to have the security of having a home and a job and your family around you. So it's a really kind of basic um, core remedy that is I see in a lot of people that need that. Um, the next one up is you go to the sacral chakra. So this is all to do with sexuality. Women can feel this with their empowerment or perhaps lack of empowerment. You can get many issues around the sexual organs, things like recurrent thrush or bacterial vaginosis or UTIs. These things can keep coming up if you've got blocks or problems around the sacral chakra. The next one that we go up to is the solar plexus, and this is all about confidence and knowing your self-worth. The color for this is yellow, so we'll go into that perhaps a little bit later about what colors you can use for lifting blocks out in the chakras. But it's it's a big remedy. It's a big chakra for children actually that have low confidence. And perhaps if you can't get them into school and they've got that anxiety and then tummy aches and you just can't seem to lift their confidence. So that's all about the solar plexus.
Okay.
And you've got the heart chakra. This one again is if you've got a closed heart, if you've had a relationship that really meant a lot to you and it was ripped out beneath you, and it's just suddenly, you can feel it in your chest, your whole chest goes tight, and you can hold on to that feeling for years and years. So that would close the heart chakra. Um, one of my favorite ones is the throat chakra. So, this is all about self-expression and being able to say what you want to say, speaking your truth, and being able to say no is a massive, massive thing for your throat. If you can't say no, if you're a people pleaser and you're constantly thinking about other people's emotions and perhaps dampening yourself down, then the throat chakra, that's how you can close that off. And then the next one, you've got the brow chakra in between the eyes, and that's all you're getting into the kind of higher realms now of right at the bottom with the root chakra, it's quite a base, a core chakra. When you go up to the top, they then get a bit more spiritual and a bit more expansive.
Uh-huh.
Um, so the brow chakra is all to do with being able to see your vision, and it's about intuition and just being able to sort of have a vision and know that that's the right thing, that's the right path that you should take, and trusting your gut instinct. That's a really lovely chakra to work on for women, perhaps who have been through a divorce, they've been married, now going for a divorce, and they just can't see their future and they don't know where they're going to go, and they're not able to sort of see past what's going on right now. So you can give remedies around that to be able to help that situation. And then the final one is the crown chakra, and that just sits right above your head up here, and that is the highest chakra that you've got. Um, Again, that's more of a sort of spiritual chakra. It's about being able to connect with, some people can be quite clairvoyant, and I notice that in people who kind of, they come to me and they can almost be a little bit not here, a little bit floaty,
Mhm.
and you think, oh, I wonder what's going on up here,
Yeah.
because you've got the crown chakra and it's a direct line right down to the root chakra, and if one of them is off and not flowing properly, then you've got some problems going on up here, and perhaps that's the one we need to look at.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because, of course, we do quite often ask these questions anyway, what really needs to be addressed? And, with not being able to say your truth, I think that's the one that we use the most. And you mentioned that about the throat chakra. So it's a feeling of closed off. They can't say what they want to say. And perhaps it takes us a little while to actually help them start to explain what it is that they can't say or do. So I'm really interested in understanding the others as well. And for me, quite often, because I don't know the chakras really, I'm thinking of a remedy first, and then thinking of that remedy might make me think, oh, I need to ask them if they have any clairvoyancy, attributes, or if they are connected to different energies in
Mm.
that way, or affected by different energies. So of course we're both coming to the same sort of thing from a different point of view, but you've got this added bonus from understanding people's emotions and where they're stuck, connecting them. So let's go back to a moment to the root chakra
Yeah.
and the fact that we've got very heavily rooted remedies, haven't we? And you mentioned carb, and I'm presuming things like um, Nat Muir and the solid remedies might be remedies that are important, whereas opposed to, as you said, the crown chakra, where we've got phosphorus and hydrogen and more
Exactly.
fairy remedies. Um, so let's go back to the root chakra and
Mm.
tell me a little bit more. Would you be looking at certain physical symptoms in that area, or is it really mostly emotional, what's happening with their
I think that's
reaction
a
to that?
really interesting question. And I just wanted to touch back on what you were talking about before. The other relation that we can, if we want to put this into more of a sort of looking at it from a physics point of way, it's amazing how we think it's quite sort of I'm not sure what the word is, like a bit of a woo-woo thing when we talk about chakras, but actually it really relates to the periodic table. So if you look at there's lines on a periodic table, and you can got line one, two, three, and actually that relates to the chakras, how it goes up. So your core base remedies are the ones that run along the bottom of that periodic table. They're the more denser.
Yeah, solid.
Yes, exactly. That's right. Yeah. And then you go up, and when you're at the top there, your gases, they're
Yeah,
really
yeah,
expansive, and they're the ones that you'd be looking at for the higher chakras. So I think that's really interesting. I've gone completely off thought then what we were saying.
yeah,
So the root chakra, yes, there are definitely some more physical symptoms when we're going through. So a patient might come to me and they might say, I have got skin problems are a huge one
yeah,
for root chakra. Um, and that can be remedies like Raphites. That's a very sort of core
yeah.
base. It's a poly
Yes.
of
Yeah,
remedies. And you can really kind of get this like how am I going to explain it? With graphites, it's a yellow sticky discharge of the skin. If you've got eczema and you itch the eczema, you're going to see plasma all over the skin, and it's going to be that kind of sticky, almost like the body is kicking toxins out and stuff out that shouldn't be there. It's like you're trying to really like almost have a detox. So your kind of detox remedies can be down there in your base chakra. If that's what's kicking it out of line, you can go in and clear from that chakra. So that's a place where I would want to do my sort of clearing out. Sulfur again, that's a really sort of a good basic one that we can use for the skin. So you'd see those kind of remedies in there. And you've got the calc carb that we mentioned before. um it's quite a slow, sluggish base, you know, base level group of remedies that we're going to be using there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's so interesting, isn't it? Just talking about this, and of course, graphite is a mineral
Yeah.
that's really, land-based, isn't it?
Yeah.
Um, Tell me a little bit more about the heart chakra, because obviously we're asking people to explain, what has happened, what really needs to be addressed. What do
Yeah.
you often find with the heart?
If I'm looking at a patient and I'm thinking, oh, I wonder if this is around the heart chakra, they're going to be quite it can go one way or the other. So they can either be very closed off or way too open and not have any boundaries at all. And they can fall in love really quickly. And so this would be if the chakra is spinning very, very quickly, it can really you can look at them and think, my goodness, you're going to end up falling in love with everybody. You're going to get hurt so much. And then they get hurt and they come back and they do it again with the next person. So you can get this cycle of these people who just fall in love and they do get really hurt. So this is like a phosphorus kind of person who doesn't have any boundaries at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
And the other way of looking at it is if you've got a really closed heart chakra, this can be a Natmur person.
Uh-huh.
They've got big walls up, they're protecting themselves. They don't want to let anybody in. They don't want to anybody to see who they really are. And as a homeopath, coming to someone like that who's quite closed and isn't able to tell me any of their symptoms, they're not able to tell me any of their mental symptoms. They don't want to. They don't want to let me in to be able to see the real them, and they don't want to explain what it is that's making them so hurt and making that chakra actually it will be completely closed. So that can be very Natmir.
Yeah, that's really interesting, isn't it? And it's just understanding actually what is behind the cycles, the repetitiveness, and why do we keep doing the same thing again and again and again? And quite often when I start a conversation, I might be saying, well, what I'm trying to find out is how you react emotionally and physically to
Mm.
your environment, because we often see these cycles, don't we?
Yeah, yeah, it's very interesting. A lot of people, when you first have a patient, they can come to you and think, oh, it's all about the physical symptoms. Because that's what, if you were to go down to the doctor's office,
Yes.
get 5 minutes and you'd quickly tell your physical symptoms what's going on. But that's not actually going to give us the full picture. When in homeopathy, we need to know what emotions caused these physical symptoms in the first place. So if you go right back and you have got, if we, so let's talk about the solar plexus. For example, if you've got a child and they're having these constant reoccurrent tummy aches,
Yeah.
we'll go back to the not going into school thing. And a doctor might say, okay, so we don't know what's causing that. You might not get the answers that you want, or you might get a diagnosis that it could be IBS or, but the way that we can truly lift that from the core so it doesn't keep recurring. We don't have to keep having pain medication or, Gaviscon, Buscon, these kind of medications that just get you through the day.
Yeah.
If we can actually go right back and lift out the anxiety of that child who won't go to school, then you don't have to have a long term, you don't have to be on medication forevermore about this anxiety. You can have your homeopathic remedy and you might be on that for 6 months if you need to go
Yeah.
quite deep, but that's actually going to treat the problem from the core where it's coming from.
And help the patient obviously to actually react in a different way because they don't have that underlying anxiety anymore. And that's really important for us to really be discussing, because what we're looking at is, okay, what is happening at school and what is the emotion that they're feeling before school and after school, and what is it? Is it that they don't want to leave the comfort of home? Is it that they don't want to stretch themselves and do work? Is it that they don't want to interact with other people? Are they fearful of noises or hearing noises in a slightly different way perhaps than we hear noises? There's so many different ways, aren't there, that results in, I've got stomach ache and I don't want to go to school.
Yes, yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I can see that we're totally looking in that area, and how you can soon build up a reservoir of remedies in each area. Have you got any examples that you can share with us about some of your clients or
Yeah, yeah, I do. I've got two actually. One on the sacral chakra and another one on the throat chakra. So if we start off with the sacral chakra, I had a patient and she'd been through some very difficult things in her life. She'd actually struggled. She'd had sexual abuse happen to her as a child. So she'd been on Staphysagria for quite a long time, and she was doing amazingly on it. She was doing so well. But this symptom that she couldn't get rid of the whole time was that everything from below, literally like a line across her sacral chakra, everything from below there was completely numb. She couldn't feel sensations below that. And I was thinking, goodness, this Staphysagra is doing such an amazing job. It really has lifted out so much. She's not angry about this anymore. She's not carrying around that feeling of I'm a victim, this happened to me. She completely let it go and she changed as a person. Her confidence had grown massively. Um, but this numb feeling was still there, and we just couldn't, what is going on here? So I thought, right, this is what's happened in her sacral chakra. The color is yellow. We need to be able to give her something that's going to release this feeling of numbness in her body. And we gave her the color, and it was amazing. She suddenly got the sensations back, and she was able to feel the sensations within her body. And also, she wanted to have intercourse again, which was just such an amazing thing that she'd had this block with. She's like, I'm not going there. I don't want that. I don't want to be touched in that area. But after she had the color remedy, it was like a changed woman. It was amazing. So that's a really good one.
That's a lovely story, but can you just explain a little bit, because a lot of people won't know that we can use colours as remedies. So first of all, can you explain, if you know, how they're proven, how do they get the colour, and why would you choose a colour?
Okay, so I think from my understanding, I think this is how it works. And I've done a little bit of delving into this. So it's interesting in what countries they make them. So if you had a little Petri dish and it had water in it, and then you had the color, so you just, this might be on like a card of color, and that can reflect into the water and it can soak up. Water's amazing. It can fully take on the expression of what is being exposed to it. And then if it was to be made in this country, the sun here isn't very strong. So that can be more of like the essence that would come out in the Petri dish would be more like a watercolor. It would be softer. So you can use those remedies for people who need softer remedies, lower potencies, who are feeling very fragile. So you'd get the remedies that are made in the UK, the color remedies for that. But when they make the color remedies in Australia, I think I'm getting this right, Mary. I might not be
All right.
confirmed.
We'll
Generalizing.
investigate further on this because it's
Yeah.
fascinating. Yeah, but it makes sense that if we've got places of higher sunlight, then that's going to reflect a stronger color.
Mm.
So and so I know I met somebody who did a big proving on rainbow. So it's very interesting, the different colors. Can you just give me another idea of another couple of colors, why they might be used?
Yes, sure. So, green is a big one for the heart. Green would open up the heart. So you can give these remedies. I wouldn't ever just give them as here's your core remedy for the month. I wouldn't say you need green this month and it's going to
Right.
solve all of your problems. But what it can do, if you're giving a basic like a polycrest remedy that month or a miasmatic remedy, you could go in and give the color that's needed alongside as a supportive remedy to open up the case a bit more so your core remedy can get in even deeper than it would have done perhaps if you hadn't have had the color remedy alongside it.
Okay, so let me just explain then. A miasmatic remedy is a remedy that is really going right back to your inherited susceptibilities, and each of the remedies come from particular miasms. And then you mentioned polycrests, and polycrests are really the 50 or 100 most used remedy that we've got a huge amount of information about, and we use them a lot. They've got a huge, big picture. So we're using them a lot. We've got a lot of data on those remedies. And what you're saying is that the color remedy can be used as an intercurrent remedy to help that main remedy go deeper. But I loved your example of using a color remedy. When there was a block, you'd use the main remedy, you weren't getting quite the result you needed, and you needed to open up that chakra and go deeper. So that was a really good example for me. Thank
Have a case quickly, Mary. I'll just quickly tell you this one because it's a really good one. I work with a lot of women who have been through abuse or domestic abuse, and they are not able to find their voice. They're not able to talk. We were talking about that with the throat chakra
Yeah.
earlier. The color for the throat chakra is turquoise, and I again was working with one of my ladies going through this, and she had that kind of lump in her throat. And I was giving her Ignatia, and this it really helped her actually to be able to let go of what she'd been through and the grief that came with that. It wasn't grief as in loss, it was a different kind of grief, a grief that she'd lost herself and she couldn't find herself. So that worked beautifully for her. But then again, we just needed the cherry on top of the cake. So we gave her turquoise alongside the Ignatia. And suddenly she said she was just able to speak her truth and to be able to say to that person, stop treating me like that, stop talking to me like that, and she was able to put boundaries in for herself. And it was just beautiful how giving that color was able to help her find her voice.
It's really fascinating because you've just joined two completely different things up for us to help explain. Um, and of course, people can contact you if they have got a blockage, if they have got something that needs to be addressed deep down that is difficult perhaps to talk about.
Yeah, that's it, exactly. I think that's quite a big part of my practice, actually. I really have a huge passion for helping women who have been through trauma or abuse and aren't able to find the words or aren't able to go to that place because it's too painful. So I spend a lot of time one-to-one with women and children who have been through difficult scenarios like that, and we can work through them together.
Chloe, this has been such a lovely topic, and I think actually we've got quite a bit more to do on this because it's a huge topic. Actually, you've opened up a whole new world with homeopathy. But what we're going to do is put your details below so that people can reach out and contact you and find out more about what help is available and how they might be able to work with you.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Mary. It's been lovely talking with you today.
And you take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Well, did you find that fascinating? Wasn't it amazing to bring together those color remedies, those chakras, the homeopathic remedies, and of course, the whole topic about trauma, sexual abuse, and how that is stopping your energies flowing through your body, all together in one series? I hope that you will click through and contact Chloe if you want to find out more about these fascinating topics.